Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Heartland Mamas. I'm Murri Briel.
And I'm Heidi Murri, and we're coming to you from the edge of the Great Red Divide. And today, Murri,
is one of my favorite episodes ever, even though we're recording it right now.
So here in Illinois, we're about ready to legalize marijuana for recreational use. And every day, Murri, because I ran for an Illinois state office, people ask me all the time, what's the law going to mean for me? So today we're going to talk about that. And then if we have some time, we're going to go into the weeds a little bit.
And if we don't finish everything we need to tell you, we'll be doing multiple episodes about this coming forward because I happen to be a fan.
Yeah. So
Cannabis.
Murri's got a in-depth knowledge that I might lack, Well, I know I lack. I know this. I know the fundamentals of the law.
Right. Well, that's a great place to start. Let's start with the fundamentals of the law. So, as of January 1st, 2020,
12:01 a.m.
12:01 a.m., it is legal to purchase and use recreational marijuana in the state of Illinois.
That is correct. And so, how much can you have? You can have 30 grams, which is 1.5 ounces.
No. It's just a little over 1 ounce.
Of plant material. You can have 5 grams of cannabis concentrate.
Plant material, for those of you who are new to this, is also called flower. What was called bud prior. Flower is the technical term that you'll find in the dispensary.
And the cannabis concentrate is an oil, correct?
A cannabis concentrate can be an oil, it can be a shatter, it can be a cartridge.
A powder?
No, a shatter is a
See, we're learning things.
crystalline substance that you heat and then inhale.
Okay.
So it can be a tincture, any form of concentrate.
Okay.
Is what that classifies as.
Or you can have 500 milligrams of THC edibles, which means your gummy bears and brownies.
Brownies, gummy bears, granola, dried fruit. The options are endless. There's an entire industry called elevated dining that has come about. And what it is THC or cannabis infused cuisine. So you're looking at, they are these underground dinners that take place. It's $100 for the dinner. They tell you an hour before where the location is. And it is high-end Michelin chefs using cannabis in their cooking. So it's a 7-course meal.
Yes.
And that is paired with drinks and different bud.
I'd be asleep after the appetizer.
Actually, no. It's really cool. But this all started as an underground movement, and now that we're moving into the legalization, there are companies and chefs who are particularly focusing on elevated cuisine, which is a new industry too.
I think, Murri, that the one thing that has struck me today in our pre-show talk is the amount of jobs this is going to create in Illinois. I am so excited about the jobs.
Not just the amount of jobs, and that's one thing we have to give Illinois a lot of credit for, was the way that they are issuing new licenses, the way that they have incentivized hiring someone who had a nonviolent marijuana conviction in that industry, are given first preference. But beyond the jobs created at the dispensaries and the grow, and you're creating all of these new industries, which are amazing, not just for employment, but for self-employment, for business growth. It's really pretty remarkable.
Well, that's awesome. I can't wait to see what comes of this. And there's a few things, though, that we need to go over, though. As of right this moment, because this will change, it's very fluid, mostly it's going to be your medical dispensaries that are going to have a recreational center as well.
As of January 1st,
yes,
the only facilities that you will be able to purchase marijuana in, cannabis in, is dispensaries.
Right.
So the state issued recreational licenses to any dispensary so they can use the split space for recreational and medical. They were also granted one additional location for every license that they have.
Yes.
Now, while that's great, That also, though, presents the problem because we have municipalities which will get to decide whether or not they allow cannabis to be sold in their town, in their county,
in their township, and wherever you live. You've watched your local government wrestle with this idea, some very openly and some very piously, as if it's not already in your community, and it's there and it's always been there. This time it gets to be out there and it's taxed and regulated, so it's a win-win situation. And every time I hear one of the municipalities fall on the side of pious religion, whatever, I say, shut up and take the money.
There's a vote coming up in Will County for the county board. Unincorporated Will County comprises of multiple towns. And
such diversity.
They have the deciding factor is the county board. And we've got some folks on the county board who...
they didn't live through the 70s or the 60s?
They're right-wing nutters who are adamantly convinced.
They saw Reefer Madness.
Oh, yeah. Like I think that plays every time they come there.
And I think if you haven't seen Reefer Madness, the time to watch that is about 12:15 after you've stopped by the dispensary on the first, because it's hilarious. It's hilarious.
So, going back to the dispensary, I do want to make sure you are aware you will be able to purchase it. I would check with your local dispensaries to see what time. Heidi said that the 2 dispensaries down in the Lacey County area and Grundy will be open at 12:01.
They expect long lines.
They plan to camp out and have your New Year's celebration.
Also, because we haven't worked out the banking regulations, bring cash. Cash is king.
There will be cash stations on location, I'm certain, but it is a strictly cash
basis.
Industry.
Right.
And that's because while it will be legal in the state of Illinois, it is federally illegal, which we'll talk a little bit about when we move forward.
Right. So here's a couple things that you need to know as we as you drive out of the dispensary on January 1st. Don't light up in the car, because
also called a doob from back in our days, or a joint. It's now called a pre-roll at the dispensary.
And I don't think they come filtered.
Oh, there's a little paper filter.
Is there? Okay.
On the back of it.
I wouldn't know. Anyway, but don't light up on your way out, because that's illegal. Smoking dope in your car is illegal. It's also illegal to smoke in a public place.
Now, you can transport the marijuana in
your
car as long as it's within those legal guidelines. Right. You just can't smoke it.
I suppose if you munch on a brownie, but you shouldn't do that on your way out. You shouldn't do that. So here's the thing: get your stuff, get to a place where you've got plenty of food and a warm place to be, and enjoy. You can't smoke in a public space. So if you leave there and decide to go to Walmart and want to light up in the parking lot, you can't do that. You can't light up in the store. You can't smoke inside anyway in Illinois. But there are things you need to remember, and you have to use your good common sense and follow the law. This is going to be, we don't want it to be a free-for-all. We want it to be a free, safe, fun experience for everybody. So make sure that you follow the law and get home, go to your friends. I've heard so many neighborhood parties that are going to be happening.
There are actually, the state of Illinois did allow for there to be clubs.
Right.
And dispensaries will have the option of having a smoking lounge.
Right.
That they can smoke indoors on site.
Right. And I fully expect to see that open in Morris, Illinois, because it's in a very lovely old restaurant. And I'm hoping that they put a lovely little lounge in there for everybody to enjoy. But take your pot home, take it to the neighbors, whatever you're going to do, and enjoy.
Now, on a side note, if you're taking... We definitely will go into more details on what type of pot and what to do with it. But as we were talking about these cottage industries, there are people out there whose job it is, including one amazing woman, Miss Cannabis, Nikki Serbin. She's a canna consultant. And Nikki has been a medical marijuana patient and advocate for the legalization for a very long time. She offers a service that will help pair you with what you're looking for. She will show you various types of smoking devices, should you choose to smoke. She'll explain to you the differences in tinctures and shatters and wax, and she'll walk you through it. She'll even come to your home and teach you how to do it.
Wow.
If you want to become confident before. So it's
cool.
a great, really cool, like we talked about all
Yeah,
these new
like
industries.
a concierge for
Yes, so Nikki Serban,
Cannabis.
Miss Cannabis.
We're going to try to
And-
have her on our show.
Yeah, we're going to have Miss Cannabis on our show.
Before the 1st.
Absolutely.
So it's important to know that not all strains are the same, that people have spent their lifetime developing these strains to impact different illnesses, to different levels of enjoyment.
So I kind of want to liken it to a couple of things.
Yeah.
I'd like to dispel the myths about cannabis.
Okay.
As we're going forward here. You've seen Half-Baked, you've seen Dazed and Confused, all the stoner movies. And yes, that is a potential consequence of certain strains of cannabis. But it's not your father's cannabis anymore. There are thousands of different varieties. And you're thinking, and I used to liken it to craft beer. So there are thousands of different craft beers, all with their own flavors and profiles. And it's similar to that, except I think it's more like tomatoes.
Okay.
Because they're both plants. So in tomatoes, you have everything from
Cherry, grape,
cherry,
and beefsteak.
grape, Roma, beefsteak, Blue Boy.
Yeah.
There are hundreds, and then you get into the heirlooms and yellow and purple. But each one is grown genetically for different traits.
Well, Murri, I studied horticulture in college, and plant breeding was part of that. We didn't breed any pot, but we bred. But plant breeding is it's so crucial. Before we had genetic modification, we did hybridization and breeding to get different strains and different things to look like that. That's why we have so many different colors of roses. So I want you to know that it's really important to take the time to get to know what works best for you, what you enjoy. And, like my husband used to drink Strohs, and now he has to drink genuine draft, but he still misses his Strohs. And yet Murri is a cottage beer drinker, so everybody's got their different thing.
And that's
And there's always going to be the Bud Light of beer, of pot.
So there are three basic categories.
Yeah.
And one is what is your typical marijuana that you think of, Dazed and Confused, couch lock, chillin', and that's an indica. Those are the marijuana strains that were around back in my day and our day.
Okay.
There's another strain which has been created, which is called a sativa. And a sativa is energizing. Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but you can equate it to a cup of tea or coffee. As far
Red
as
Bull.
headedness, energy.
Okay.
And that's great.
I learned something today.
Now there's something in the middle called a hybrid. And hybrids can be both indica and sativa. So I've found in working with people who use marijuana medically, I found that certain types of people work well toward one type of marijuana.
Okay.
So an example is people who are very high-strung, type A, nervous personalities. If they have a sativa that's too strong, which is the awake alert, it can actually make them feel anxious and jittery and uncomfortable.
And paranoid.
And paranoid. But people who are that type of person tend to do very well with an indica dominant hybrid or an indica, because it just kind of levels everything out.
Okay.
Now, those folks who can't
Like an
get off the
adaptogen.
couch to begin with
Yes.
will never leave with an indica. So if you're one of those folks, I highly recommend you go for the sativa-leaning hybrids or sativas.
So let's talk about, because we went into the weeds there a little bit about weed, but let's talk about the regulations on work and driving, because those are really important things. And I made some phone calls to a few people I know in law enforcement and to my insurance agent to get some in-depth insider information. So here's the takeaway. Your job is going to be able to decide if you can smoke pot and go to work. Your job is going to decide if that's okay with them or not. And it's perfectly legal for them to drug test.
And drug test for THC.
Right. And the thing is because impairment is impairment. And if you're driving a forklift and you're stoned, you may not make the best choices that you need to do. If you're driving a semi, you shouldn't do that when you've been using marijuana.
And here's the downside of marijuana. I could be a semi driver and have had 3 days off at home, gone, had a barbecue, smoked up, got a great night's sleep. It's completely out of my system and there's no impairment. I get in my truck and I drive, and it's a week later and I get in an accident. There's THC in my system.
Right. We don't have real-time testing.
And so because there's THC in my system, I could lose my job. My company can fire me, even though I didn't use it for...
Same thing with an auto accident. If you have THC in your system, you could be culpable and held liable, even if the accident wasn't your fault. They could have said that your reaction time was poor, that you weren't in the right place at the right time. So it's really important to be careful and cautious in those matters, and never to drive when the THC is active.
And to keep
and you'll know
on the legislation, and to keep an eye on the laws moving forward. Right now, should you happen to get a marijuana DUI, there's a good chance it'll get thrown because there's no conclusive testing or evidence to figure out what we're using. But there's also a good chance you'll get a judge that will throw the book at you because there's no conclusive testing or evidence.
Exactly. We're on a real slippery slope with this. And the one thing that my insurance agent warned me about is in Colorado, the average insurance has gone up $85 per person per month because of the amount of accidents with people with THC in their blood. That doesn't mean that they were high when they were in the accident. It means that that they had THC in their bloodstream. So you need to make sure that you use caution again and follow the letter of the law. And know that if you get in an accident and it's your fault and you have THC in your system, your insurance company may drop you. So that's,
I think it's also going to depend on the area where you live and the feel about it in general. Some officers and areas are very anti, and they have nothing better to do than to try to find that. Some have way better things to do than to bother anyone unless you're in an accident doing something reckless or breaking another law.
Well, as it was put to me by one officer, is he'd rather you drive with THC residue, old residue in your system than on your cell phone. So,
and there's exactly.
So now the other thing too is you're not allowed to drive a boat impaired. Now I live right by the Illinois River, and people are busted out there all the time for driving drunk. Well, guess what? It can happen with pot too. And if you're on your boat and you smoke up a doobie and the conservation police pass, you're going to get a ticket.
One of the biggest challenges for officers is that it is much harder to detect if someone is under the influence of marijuana than it is if they're under the influence of alcohol. Pot. You can, unless you smell it or you see it, or the impairment is so grave, you're usually, it's very difficult for them to identify those signs. So the Illinois Police Department is working in a task force to help figure that out as well.
And you're going to get cops that just flip and hate pot. They just hate it.
Let's just say this, guys. All right. From one pot connoisseur to all of the potential pot connoisseurs out there, let's be realistic about this. Your odds of getting pulled over are greater if you are in an area that is particularly against it, if you happen to be a person of color, if you happen to be young. Your odds of getting pulled over and harassed for this are far greater.
Oh, yes.
Than they are if you live in a blue county that sells it and is
multi-dimensional people. So when you
use your judgment. It's just like, I wouldn't drive through Alabama with a giant
Trump.
Oops, bad word. Demonetized. We're not even monetized yet, so subscribe, like, share, so we could be monetized. That would be cool. You dropped that in real nice.
Yeah.
You know, car going 3 miles an hour through Alabama with that. I would most certainly be pulled over, arrested. So it's kind of the same thing. Don't wave a red flag in front of a bull. Be smart.
Now, here's another thing, Murri, that I learned, you know, and it's just common sense. If you enjoy our state parks, if you enjoy your local park district parks, if you enjoy your local community town square, don't smoke dope in public, period. If you're out hiking, that's not the time to light up a what did you call them? A pre-roll. So I want you to know that the conservation police are watching for this, and they will ticket you. It's against the law. Now,
okay, so, you know, they're not supposed to smoke cigarettes in the parks either.
No.
So
they do anyway.
Right. Well,
and
so
they drink.
I know, right? You're thinking, wow, it would be so great to just get very relaxed and go explore in nature. You can totally do it. Just don't light up. You can tincture, you can take an edible, you can
bring a bag of gummy bears.
There are so many options. Should you want something particular in a forest, you don't have to break the law to get it.
Right. So just understand that, you know, I took the due diligence and called a few friends of mine that are in the profession, and some were more opposed than others. Some were very much in favor. Some are just doing handsprings over the fact that they don't have to arrest people for pot, that they can right now just write you a ticket for having it. So, you know, you have to understand that every police officer brings to them the sum total of their experience. So you don't know who you're dealing with on any certain day. But it is a legal substance in Illinois as of January 1st. I encourage you, if you're interested in trying marijuana or going back to it, if you are somebody my age that maybe did it in high school and walked away from it,
or somebody who I've had a lot of people say that they tried it once and it was awful, or it didn't do anything, or and that very well may be, but where we are now is so far from where we were,
right, that
it's legal, it's safe, and I highly recommend sticking with dispensaries.
Don't buy it off the street. There was one thing, Murri, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that was one thing that one of my friends in law enforcement told me, that in my county that they have found fentanyl-laced bud. They have found fentanyl that has been sculpted or molded into a form that looks like marijuana. That can kill you. So don't buy it off the street. Go to a dispensary.
Now, here's the question. Heidi brought up a great question. How much is it going to cost me? To get marijuana?
To get some for Sunday's game.
To get some for Sunday's game.
Sure.
Right? Okay. It's going to cost you, depending on your area, because each municipality will have various taxes that go along with what the state taxes are.
Up to 20%.
It will determine what type you're getting, what the THC content is. If it's under 35%, which is typically almost all flower, then you will get, it's taxed at 10%. If it's over 35%, which would be your concentrates, your
the equivalent to hard liquor over beer and wine,
at 20%. Then each municipality will add its own taxes. Each grower will have its own costs. The state has really worked hard to try to keep legal costs low enough with slow incremental increases in order to balance out the black market.
Well, and here's the thing. The black market has been here. Pot has been in your community all of your life. It's been in my community all of my life. I've never been an anti-pot person. I'm not an imbiber. You know, I am that type A personality. I'm a control freak, so I'm not.
So getting her high as hell. We're gonna indica this girl.
I don't think it'll ever happen. So
it'll totally happen.
Well, because statistically, people who don't get high now are probably not going to get high after it's legal. There would be people like me, and it's not that I don't have any problem with it. It's just not I don't drink either, you know. I mean, it's just a personal choice. So, because anybody who knows me personally knows that I am a massive control freak.
That's why she needs a little.
I always have to be completely in charge. I have to try to keep my wits about me.
So as we were talking, well, you know what? For those of you that are going to try it, here's what to expect. One, make sure that you bring cash.
Yes.
It is a completely cash industry.
Have your snacks and stuff set up at home.
You are not able to utilize credit cards. I'm sure they'll have ATM machines, but make sure you have your cash. Also, have some idea of the type of thing that you're looking for.
And if you don't, be open to learning.
Right. We were talking, though, I totally got sidetracked because I just got so excited about it.
I'm excited about the revenue, and she's excited about the pot.
I'm excited about that. When we're talking about buying it, you can expect to pay anywhere between $60 and $100 for 3.5 grams, which is comparable to an eighth of actual flour. Now, that'll range. It's the same thing as wine. You can buy a bottle for $4, or you can buy a $2 chuck, or you can buy a 300 bottle of wine. So it's kind of that same thing. And it will be more expensive probably than, dude down the street who gets bags.
Well, and here's the other thing. As a grower, you're going to be able to buy organic strains. You're going to buy pure strains. You'll know what you're getting at the dispensary.
That is my strongest recommendation, and absolutely there's the threat of having it be laced with something, having it, that there is been an uprise in fentanyl laced marijuana. So I still don't get why, but
fentanyl is very cheap to produce.
Right, but that's a whole other conversation. But I want to say that as I was talking about the different types, if you're afraid of being anxious or paranoid, there are types to stay away from. Most dealers don't know what type they have, and if they know what type they have, they don't know what the percentage is.
Right.
They don't know what the strain, the details of the strain. So you're getting a crapshoot. I could be getting a bag and have no idea what the effect of it is going to be on me. When you go to a dispensary, you know that you are getting this type of product. You know that it is verified, that you know how much THC is in it. You know the effects of it. And it makes so much more sense for anyone interested in checking it out to do it this way. Don't be silly. Just think of it, instead of buying a Pabst, you're buying a Guinness. A
craft, yeah. Well, and here's one of the things that I know from my study in college is that every grower has to apply a certain amount of fungicide, insecticide, and herbicide in order to produce their plant material. You don't know what the street stuff has been sprayed with. You don't know if it's got paraquat or Roundup on it. You don't know if it's been sprayed with a fungicide that's a known carcinogen. You don't know if the insecticide is a systemic, so it stays in there forever. It can kill you, the chemicals that are sprayed on it. Because a lot of that comes from out of the country, you have to remember a lot of countries don't have the same laws we have.
And that brings up CBD. I caution people very strongly.
Don't buy CBD at the gas station, for God's sake.
Buying CBD in places, and even in CBD shops.
Yeah.
Because a lot of CBD is made from hemp, which is farmed industrially for its fibers, and they use the concentrate for CBD. And that, again, you can get a lot of chemicals, you can get poisoned.
The difference between medicinal CBD and industrial CBD is
ridiculous,
exponential.
And there is no
it's unregulated
guidelines on that for right now. So please buy reliably.
CBD, I use CBD. And I use a cream on my arthritic hands. And I hate the taste of it, so I haven't been taking the tincture. I did try it for about 2 months, and it was awful.
Did you put it in anything?
I put it in my mouth.
No, you're supposed to take a tincture and put it in a drink.
It just makes the drink taste like CBD oil.
Well, you're not.
Well, okay. So I get mine from the pharmacist, my CBD. And it's very, from a very reliable source and from a guy that's taken a lot of training on it. I passed a gas station up in Glen Ellen the other day. I went to go see my dad, and they had a sign out in front that said CBD sold here, and I thought, oh, the hell, you say? Who buys it at the gas station, for God's sake?
But because it's been marketed as being a cure-all for everything. It's able to.
Could be why my fingers are hurting, so maybe I'll go take my tincture today, or I'll try mixing it in something.
There's one other thing about this legalization that you really need to be aware of. If you're super excited about marijuana becoming legal, as I am, and as everyone I know,
I'm excited for the jobs and the income, the revenue. Oh my gosh!
I'm excited for the weed and the other stuff too. But don't go out and build yourself a grow house. You will not be able to grow it unless you have a medical card. If you have a medical card, you're allowed to have 5 active plants growing at once.
Right. So my husband has a medical card, and we've been talking about getting seeds because he's a huge gardener and he has a greenhouse. So I don't know. I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to keep my neighbors out of it. So who knows if we'll do it or not. The other
we'll
thing,
do it. I'll come garden for.
He loves to grow stuff, so he probably will. Anyway, I want to also warn you.
Heartland Mama's Indica coming to it. Okay.
We'll do some plant breeding. So here's the other thing too. With any new revenue source, with any new item, there's always going to be scams. Now, I always tell people I was part of an MLM for 20 years. I made a crap ton of money in it. I did really well selling vitamins. I loved it. I still drink some of it. But not every MLM is the same. And for people who get into MLMs, most fail. I was very bad at recruiting people because I'm a workaholic. So, and I know most people aren't. So nobody's going to work as hard as I do. I just assume that because I don't want anybody else to have pain of failure, right? So here's the thing I want you to know is there's MLMs for pot as well, and not all of them are the same. You can buy into an opportunity, but you need to be very careful. And a local attorney warned me about something called First Investment Capital.
So definitely mark down right here to be aware of scams and ways to get your money with the new burgeoning pot industry.
Anytime it's a get-rich-quick scheme.
An MLM.
No, anytime it's not all MLMs are bad. So I just want to say that because I was in one for so long. But you have to understand that any business investment is risk, and most businesses fail. 2/3 of businesses will fail within the first 2 years.
Don't be suckered by promises.
I've looked into growing it.
Grandeur.
I've looked into it because I'm always looking for ways to monetize my farm, and I decided I'm still on the fence about it. So we'll see. Maybe we will have a Heartland Mama's train, but I have to be respectful of my neighbors because it brings other things to the neighborhood. So here's something that a local attorney warned me about was the First Investment Capital, Cannabis Talk 101, Cannabis Talk Network, Grow and Grow Rich Academy. These were some of the schemes that they told me about, where you have to give $1,000 for a 3-day seminar.
We're going to put these links up, not the links. We're going to put the names up so that you are aware.
Be aware, because right now it costs a minimum of $700,000 to get a grow permit, and that's just to get the permit. Right now, if I wanted to set up a grow house on my property, it would be about a $2.3 million operation.
There's also school scams going on
some of these are school scams.
So it'll be get certified as a bud tender and take a $400 course,
which you're never going to recoup,
and it doesn't do you any
if
good.
They can get 100 people to come in and pay $1,000 for this course, they've made $10,000 in a weekend for something you've had to pay for, and the thing is that after they leave, and you're sitting there with a bunch of materials you can download offline, read a book on, and you're not going to read anyway.
Cannabis.
Yeah, ask Miss Cannabis, because as many times as people think, oh, I'm going to get so rich from doing this, they're not gonna. And I don't care if you see a nail boutique that opens and closes within a year. Restaurants fail at a rapid rate. I'm in the horse industry. I see people go in and out of horses like turning on and off a light switch. It is so hard to make a living when you're self-employed. And this market is going to get flooded quick with a lot of people that are going to flash in and flash out. and go
Don't
bankrupt.
be afraid to try things, to
Right.
start small
You start small.
and explore different opportunities. There are going to be so many opportunities out there, but don't get suckered is what we want you to
Right.
know.
Don't get suckered. And if you're growing your 5 plants for medical marijuana, don't sell them. That's illegal. So, you share it with your neighbors, but don't charge them.
sell.
I don't think you can even legally share it with your neighbors, so I'm giving you bad advice. Anyway, be considerate, be cautious, follow the letter of the law. Always
And
plan ahead.
Enjoy. Welcome to Progressive Illinois.
We welcome everyone to come. Oh, also, our visitors to our state can have half the amount that residents can buy.
Yep. So you can go in and purchase
if you're from
15
Kansas,
grams.
Iowa, you're all welcome. Come into our state and buy.
Oh, it'll be good.
It'll be good, but follow the laws of your own state if you plan to bring it back home.
So thank you so much for tuning in. We hope we have enlightened you on the basics of marijuana and how it will affect you. Oh, Sugar Puff, there is one thing that we failed to mention.
What's that?
And that is that federal housing.
Oh, yeah.
If you live in federal housing.
If you live in any housing, if you are in any subsidized housing from Section 8 to USDA to FHA to any of them, you cannot smoke pot in your home, period. That's why these clubs are going to be opening up. So make sure that if you're in housing, if you're in any type of subsidized housing, you are not allowed to smoke pot in your house.
Now, the state of Illinois is working with CHA and trying to come up with ways to
For medical,
mitigate this.
yeah.
And it's not a state issue. This is completely federal because it is not legal at the federal level. And that's one thing you do need to make sure that you keep in the back of your mind when you're going into a business, dealing with cannabis, or you're buying cannabis, or whatever the case may be. It is still federally illegal. That's why it's all cash.
Yes.
There is no...
It's also illegal for your children to be around it. So you need to make sure that if you bring some stuff home that you put it up.
And if you're working in a federal job, you may have to be extra particularly careful in that capacity as
Any
well.
job. I don't care if your job is arranging flowers or picking up
Or if
trash.
your company has federal contracts.
Yes, if your company has
So-
federal contracts, it's OUT.
Until we get it to where hopefully we
It's
will
nationally,
have it nationally
legally.
legalized.
And then we can enter the whole world of banking, because right now, I think that was one of the biggest hassles that I looked at is that there's no way to bank it. And
There isn't.
people who I know that are in the industry just tell me that the safe that they have to have, the amount of cash they deal everything on
That's
cash.
one of the dangers, is that it is because it is completely
They
cash industry.
have a triple and quadruple system for keeping their books, because cash in, cash out, but you have to know where it is, and just to keep people above board, because there's so much money on the premises of these places, and they worry about being held up and all kinds of stuff, and they can't just put it in the bank because that's laundering.
So here's an idea. One of the, I don't know if it was an alderman or a state rep, I can't think off the top of my head, proposed a Illinois state marijuana bank.
We need it.
So that it's not federally insured, it's not FDIC insured, but it's a centralized banking facility that operates under Illinois alone for this industry, which is a pretty darn great idea.
Well, presidential candidate Tom Steyer had opened a People's Bank, kind of with that same bend in California, and to help people like the old Savings and Loan Stead. And if you're going to watch A Wonderful Life coming up here, and you'll see that the Banks is, what was her last name? I don't know, but anyway, they worked at the Building and Loan. Well, you don't see those Bailey Building and Loan, and you don't see those anymore. Thank you, Ronald Reagan. So, we brought it right back around to how much I hate Ronald Reagan.
Before she goes off again, thank you so much for joining us. We've really hoped we've enlightened you and helped answer any questions. If
I'm
you have
excited.
more questions,
Yeah.
reach out to us. I know quite a bit about cannabis.
Reach
and I'm
out to
more than happy
Murri
to
because
share.
she's going to be a bigger. I can talk to you about regulations and rules and income and
Anything else?
monetization.
I can talk to you about all that too.
But she knows all the ins and
I know
outs
all
of
the other stuff.
yeah. So.
But you can also reach out to Miss Cannabis. I will post her information on the site. Please like, share, spread the word. We do
Follow
this
us.
out of our own pocket so that we can bring great information to you. And any donation that you have or liking us, sharing us, and following us will sincerely help.
And it's Heartland Mamas, MAMAS.com for all our back episodes and to make a donation. So thank you so much.
Have a great night.
Bye-bye.